Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP28 in Dubai. Ambitious, just together.
Ladies and gentlemen, both here and online, a warm welcome to the German Associations of Cities side event in collaboration with Connective Cities. My name is Sonja Berdau. I'm going to be your lovely moderator for today's session. And, let's start. Today, as we focus on the topic of cities here at COP28, it's a pleasure to see that the Deutscher Städtetag is highlighting the importance of municipality involvement in climate negotiations and shaping a climate-friendly energy systems. We have got an exciting lineup. You will see that in a minute. Let me first introduce, from my perspective, cities are actually the game changer when it comes towards shaping a climate-friendly energy production and provision. And therefore, it's very crucial to actually foster a global knowledge transfer and to promote learning among German cities and others worldwide. The German method or model of local energy production and provision could serve as a role model for decentralized energy systems. This is why actually the Deutscher Städtetag has teamed up with Connective Cities, which is a cooperation project financed by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, implemented jointly by GIZ, Deutscher Städtetag, and SKIW from Engagement Global. And the Connective Cities works to create expert dialogue among municipalities on sustainable urban development. And let's actually check out their learning process. They have cooked up throughout the year on energy production and provision on a local level. So let's greet our amazing international panel. And I'm happy to see actually the complete panel now present. Thank you very much. So first, I would like to invite Katja Dörner, the Lord Mayor of Bonn in Germany. She's the Vice President of the German Association of Cities. And she also serves as the ICLEI Vice Chair for Climate Action. Welcome to the stage. I'm delighted. First, I will introduce all panelists, and then I invite you for your keynote. And actually, your city's motto on Think Global, Act Local is amazing. And I would also like to welcome Mr. Councillor Mandala from South Africa, the Councillor of the Metropolitan Municipality of eThekwini. It's a pleasure to have you here with us as well. I watched some of your amazing municipality podcasts. Very well, very exciting. Next, I would like to invite Baka Saju. He is the Executive Director of Technical Service of the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria. Actually supporting municipalities and developing local energy grids. And it's actually amazing to see, it's inspiring to see how you manage the success of energy supply to all your local municipalities. And last but not least, of course, I would like to invite Christian Achterlich, the Councillor of the City of Cologne in Germany, also representing the Council of European Municipalities and Regions. I have read that you're actually tired of our German attitude to complain, and you would also like to act locally. So it's a vision you share with the city of Bonn. I was actually asked to make a picture with this awesome panel. So if I could quickly delay our start to make a picture, and I don't know who in the panel could take this amazing picture for us and send it later to us. Would you be so nice? And maybe we can stand up for that. And also wave to the audience online. They might also take pictures. Okay. Thank you very much. So without well, maybe to introduce shortly the agenda. We will have 2 keynote speeches, followed by a panel discussion, and your questions and comments, ending with the final outlook, how to engage with connective cities. But now I am delighted to introduce the first keynote by Mrs. Katja Dörner. And actually, please come to the desk. Please tell us about Bonn's efforts towards climate-friendly energy production and provision.
Thank you very much, esteemed host, panelists and guests. I have been asked to share my thoughts on climate neutrality, the transition to renewable energies, and of course collaboration, city to city and multi-level, which will hopefully set the scene for the discussion to follow. Let me start by thanking Connective City and partners, the German Association of Cities and the GIZ, for their dedicated work, offering a platform for peer learning, peer consulting, exchange and advocacy. And I can tell that as the city of Bonn, we have already taken part in several Connective Cities events, which provided always a very fruitful exchange for us. And you already said that I have several hats on my head today. As a member of the German Bundestag, I have been a member of the German Bundestag, and now I'm a mayor of Bonn, the Germany's United Nations city, since 2020, and I'm the vice president of the German Association of Cities. Bonn is a city that has sternly embarked on the path to climate neutrality by 2035 latest. In spring, in March, our City Council adopted the first of a series of ambitious climate plans set on within the boundaries of the 1.5-degree goal of the Paris Agreement. We are walking the talk and transforming our city. And what is really special, I think, about our Bonn climate plan is that it not just says that we want to be climate neutral in 2035 latest, but that we really take into account the carbon dioxide budget that we still have to emission. So it is more ambitious, I think, than most of the other cities, even in Germany. And our climate plan is therefore very important for us and very important on the way to become climate neutral. We are doing this in a very participatory, collaborative, and socially just approach, jointly with our citizens and local stakeholders, turning their vision into solid action towards renewable energies and a green, livable city. And let me talk about the summer of 2019. I don't know whether you have seen the panel before with Luisa Neubauer, and I was inspired to think about the summer of 2019 in Germany with Fridays for Future. Millions of people took their concern for a climate future to the streets. And in July of that year, upon a citizen's proposal, the Bonn Council declared a climate emergency. And our civil society formed a broad alliance offering the city to drive a collaborative approach towards the climate transition. And in November of this year as well, the City Council set a goal for climate neutrality by 2035. A 2-year participatory process that was named Bonn for Future began, jointly steered by civil society and the Bonn administration. And that was also something very special and very new to us, because we had this integrated approach, the civil society as one side of the medal and the city administration on the other. Randomly selected citizen and stakeholder co-developed a Bonn climate vision with the administration, worked on the relevant technical proposals. A new program office reporting directly to me was installed, along with offices for mobility and social cohesion. And I want to say that I think it is extremely important that you combine these aspects, that you always, when you talk about climate change and the transition of our society, you always have to talk about to design it in a socially just way, because otherwise I'm convinced we cannot succeed in relation to the things we have to do against the climate crisis. By mid-2022, the vision and the strategies came together. The Bonn Climate Plan 2035 was drafted. It is a roadmap with clear goals and development paths in 7 fields of action for the coming 13 years. As a systematic overall strategy, the climate plan engages all city departments as well as municipal subsidiarities. And the climate plan is actually a series of subsequent plans allowing for adjustment along the way in order to stay within the 1.5-degree goal. I think this is also important. It is not a fixed plan that cannot be altered. It is a kind of work in process, and we have to adapt to new situations. For 2023 to 2025, a first climate action plan was adopted in March this year, and it's now implemented boldly, consistently in a socially just, participatory manner. Socially means economically just, but also intergenerationally just. So let me now give you 5 key findings from our Bonn Climate Plan. The first is climate neutrality by 2035 in compliance with the 1.5-degree residual budget is feasible. Also, it is very ambitious. It is feasible as a project for the entire city and society if the framework conditions are right. And this is obviously a topic which we will address in the discussion later, and perhaps you recognize what is happening on the federal level in Germany at the moment related to climate finance, for example. So I think we have to solve this problem very fast, for otherwise even the local level will not be able to achieve our goals. The second point is climate action pays for society as a whole. It lowers the costs for climate adaptation and repair of environmental damage, plus it entails benefits for the local economy and job market. Therefore, it is so important to get the buy-in engagement of the business sector. And that was a very important finding of our concrete Bonn climate plan, that it benefits to our local economy, because sometimes you have to justify for investing in climate on the local level. And when you can show that even the economy or the economy in general benefits from it, this is a very advantage. The third point is our scenarios show that energy consumption in Bonn can almost be cut in half by 2035. We aim at 100% climate-friendly supply with 42% less energy demand than in 2021. But, and that is a fourth finding, however, there is a sector where the energy demand will be twice as high. Our future is spelled with an E, e-mobility and e-heating. I guess it will not come as a surprise to you. We will double the electricity need for Bonn in 2035, despite considerable energy savings. And the fifth finding is that a city alone will not be able to achieve all this without enabling framework conditions laid down by national governments and higher levels like the European Union. Locally, the participation of the urban society as a whole is crucial. The 7 areas of our climate plan: governance, society, economy, building, energy, mobility, and compensation, responds to these 5 findings. So let me take you into the energy part of it to become a bit more concrete, which has also a lot to do with outreach and connecting the people. Climate offices in our neighborhoods serve as spaces for innovation, networking, and new ways of action and collaboration. We will engage the sport and the cultural sector to actively implement and promote climate action. And I think this is also of a huge importance. I remember very well that I had a meeting with 7 high-level professors in Bonn, and they showed me their new findings about climate change, and that was brilliant research and brilliant results. And after we talked about these kind of results, we were a bit like, and now? What can we do now? Because, we have to bring this knowledge that people have in mind to the heart of the people to make them become active. And therefore, we really need to invest also into the climate aspect related to culture and arts and also sports, because sports is such an important multiplier on the local level. So one urgent matter is to develop and implement a strategy for climate neutrality for existing buildings. We also need to establish a support scheme for socially responsible, energy-efficient modernization of old buildings for private landlords. And we are hoping to launch an investment program for restructuring the heat supply of properties, aiming at a 770% growth in renewable heating. 770% shows how huge the challenges in this sector really are. So altogether we targeted plus 60% renewable energy, and this potential for renewable, in particular solar energy, is huge, so we urgently need to tap into this potential. When we're talking energy, I would also like to mention our support for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, complementing the Paris Agreement. We were the first city in Germany who signed this treaty, and I think this is also a very important sign how serious our ambition in this field really is. With the Paris Agreement, we have the goals and the recognition that no nation, no local government, no stakeholder can do this alone. A few days ago, the Local Climate Action Summit rallied national and local leaders, launching the Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnerships. And this morning, the ministerial meeting on climate and urbanization marked a next milestone towards sustainable, climate-friendly urban settlement. So the homework has yet to happen, and I believe that the Daring Cities Forum, back-to-back to the June climate talks, will be an important platform for the follow-up. And I know that cities all around the world, they ask themselves the same question: how can we become climate neutral? How can we cater to the energy needs of our people in sustainable, renewable way? And also, how can we manage this transition while leaving no one behind? So climate partnerships like the one hosted by Engagement Global, platforms for city-to-city exchange like Connective City, and fora like the Daring City are key when it comes to uniting and streamlining our knowledge, ambition, and action. I am particularly happy that the city of Bonn has the privilege of being part of this. So thank you very much for your attention so far, and I'm looking forward to our discussion round. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hello? Do you hear me? You can hear me? No? Hello? 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 Yeah, no. Okay, thank you very much for these interesting insights. Let's hear from the other panelists what they have to share of good practices, how to make the global shift towards climate-friendly energy production and provision on local level. So therefore, I would like to hand over, or actually ask a question to you, Barker. How does the agency support, your agency, support the Nigerian local government to develop their most suitable energy production option?
Can you hear me?
Do you, yeah, is it on?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to be here at the German Pavilion. My name is Barker Sajo, and I work with the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria. It is an institution of government that is responsible for providing energy access to rural communities. And just to highlight, the enormous nature of the work, about 70 to 80 million Nigerians do not have access to electricity. So while we talk about all of the climate conditions and, contributing to, carbon neutrality, for us in Nigeria, it's more of energy access. We only have the opportunity to do so responsibly looking at renewables and other clean energy technologies. I would like to also highlight that in the last 5-6 years, we have gotten a lot of support from the German government through the Nigerian Electrification Support Program, and it's been implemented by the GIZ. That's something that has resulted into a lot of innovative business models and different solutions that we have tried to reach some of these municipalities in providing energy access. So in a nutshell, we have actually focused on all of this work through various decentralized energy solutions, especially using solar because it's the least cost option given the levels of irrigation that we have in abundance in Nigeria. And I'm very pleased to say that with a lot of development partners like GIZ, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, in the last 5 to 6 years, we have been able to actually impact over 7 million of this 70 million. At this point, I think we need to be more ambitious in alignment with the theme for the pavilion, which I like very much, by the way. We need to be very ambitious. We need to do things in a just manner, and we need to do things together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Madlala, I would like to hear how your city tackles the lack of energy security. Your municipality.
Yes. Thank you very much, and greetings to you and the fellow panelists and everyone who's here and those who are connected through the virtual platforms. I'm from the city of eThekwini, formerly known as Durban. I'm Councillor Madlala, as it has been said. The city is in South Africa, and in South Africa, the form of government that is in place is a unitary type of government. So unlike in Germany, where you have a federal state, we have a national, provincial, and then local government. I'm clarifying that part so that maybe you'll understand some of the issues I'm going to raise. We are a country that is currently under energy poverty. In one of the panels where the mayor of Cologne was speaking, he said he was in our city some other time recently, and while he was at the mall, there was a power outage which lasted for 2 hours, and according to his own observation, that affected the businesses in the mall, but it also affected tourism, because as a tourist he was there looking to enjoy shopping, and some of the shops had to close because of that. So the energy poverty affects different aspects of social life in our country, and mostly economically. We are an emerging economy, and therefore anything that affects the economy affects then everything, including our efforts in terms of climate change, because we all know that you need to have a revenue base that is healthy for you to be able to implement all of these initiatives. And therefore, in our part, the generation and distribution has always been the purview of the national government, until recently, when they eased the regulations and allowed cities to participate. Now, as soon as that was done in 2021, we then because there were no policies. We did not have any policy that speaks to that, because it was just national government and we were just recipients. So in 2021, we adopted the energy transition policy as a city, and which then kickstarted a process wherein we are trying to move to a particular direction. We then did a market research, trying to test the market to see if there's appetite for the energy mix that we are looking for in terms of the renewables, and because the electricity generation in our country has been done by a state monopoly, and it's largely based on coal generated power and just a little bit of nuclear power. So the whole shift needs to happen if we are to meet these ambitious goals that we've set ourselves. So we tested the market and we found that there is huge appetite. After that, the city approved budget for 400 megawatts of electricity to be purchased from the independent power producers who are producing a mix of renewables. That is the path that we are on. Now, because of that has enabled us to be able to, it's going to be that policy and those decisions are going to enable us to, buy from alternative power sources, not rely on the grid, the national grid, which is coal-powered, of course. Now, if we do that, it's going to also help us to plan for long term, because one of the issues is that there was no capacity in our country, both at local, subnational, and national level, capacity for generation of any other thing other than the coal, because there was no vision to do away with. So this will help us in terms of our long term, because our long term goal is that as a municipality we need to be able to have capacity to generate ourselves. But for now, we are going to rely on these independent power producers to supply us the 400 megawatts, and we are hoping for an increase, budget allowing. Now, this also is going to sort of intensify our energy, our clean energy efficiency effort, and all of that, create new economic opportunities. Because it's new industries that are going to then be sparked, and we hope that the creation of those industries will then take along the issues that our country has been facing, because knowing our history, you know that our country has had a situation of racial segregation, and therefore the economy is still reflective of our past. Women, youth, and people of color are not entirely participating and benefiting from the economy. And therefore we hope that these initiatives are then going to allow the participation of those categories. Also, to boost investor confidence. The mayor of Cologne, if he was an investor coming to our city, he was going to have second thoughts after the incident that he mentioned. And therefore, I think once you have this in place, it's then addressing a lot of things. It's addressing your socio-economic issues, but it's also address your ambitions for energy efficiency and clean energy ambitions and all of that. We also are looking at issues of social justice, as I mentioned. So maybe in a nutshell, that is where we are as a city in terms of our ambitions and goals to, one, be energy efficient, two, to be able to produce clean energy, three, to ensure that there's broader participation by communities, especially those that were previously disadvantaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christian, how does the city of Cologne manage its energy production and provision locally? And if I may ask you, it would be nice if we can stick to 5 minutes, because we unfortunately have to then let Katja Dörner go to another commitment, and I would love to ask her one last question. But
sure, just give me a sign.
5 minutes.
Just give me a sign. Yeah, happy to be here. I'm a city councillor in the city of Cologne, but I also represent the council of the European Council of Municipalities and Regions, and especially the Young Elected Officials Committee. You might look at me and say, well, he's not 20. No, I'm not, but in Europe you're defined as young below the age of 40. So lucky me, I can be here in that position. But I'm happy to also talk about Cologne here, of course, although I'm not the mayor. And I like the phrasing that you just put in terms of new opportunities, right? So climate change is often framed as a catastrophe, and that's right. We are heading in a very, very dangerous direction for humankind on this planet. But it also provides, the climate mitigation also provides lots of opportunities for the global north, just as well as for the global south. And the way of putting it reaching with distributed energy solutions communities and villages that were not connected to the power grid before, as you put it, is a great chance, plus bringing energy stability to local infrastructure. Which is funny because in Germany, renewable energy was, until a long time and partially still is, seen as a danger to the grid, and that because it's not provided stable, right? I mean, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. But well, we see that also in Germany by now we are at more than 50% or around 50% of renewable energies in the grid, and the grid is still very stable, lucky us. And to come to Cologne and how we do it. So Cologne is a rather, well, for German standards, dense population, a dense city area, so there's not much space for wind, but we did a huge effort to identify a couple of locations where we can install wind power, and that is part of our climate plan to be put in practice in the next few years. And yes, on the local level, we unfortunately mainly talk about years when it comes to actually implementing stuff, because that's just the time we need. And for solar panels, and that's my last point, for solar panels, I think it's important to understand the role of a city and a municipality that it can play. Municipalities often don't have large funds, so I encourage everyone not to start huge programs of funding those solar panels, but more of coordinating the setup, because we experience right now how difficult that is with all the different owners of homes, with all the different structures, even when it comes to putting solar panels on rooftops of municipal buildings. The key role of a city, and if there is a local utility company working closely together, should be of coordinating how to set up those panels. I hope that was under 5 minutes.
A very interesting insight. Thank you very much. And Katja, as you're about to head off to the next commitment, would you like to share the most important lessons from this panel with us?
Of course. First of all, I find it very interesting what Christian said about what you are doing in Cologne, because in relation to the solar panels, we are discussing exactly that. We started with funding, and we started to fund these balcony, the small balcony panels, to adjust it for people who don't have high income. But now we wanted to get things ready and get things started, but now we are talking about shifting the money, for more kind of coordination and everything that you said. So this is very good and very right. So our lessons learned is, first of all, you have to get started, and therefore we have very ambitious goals, but there are also challenges, for example, and you have to find answers to the challenges. And I realized, I became mayor in 2020, 3 years ago, and I realized, for example, that our administration was not very suitable to the task and to the challenges, because there were a lot of silos. Every part of the administration works on its own, and that is, for example, why I started these program offices that directly report to me to have a more holistic approach, because if you want to tackle the consequences of the climate crisis, you need a holistic approach. And you mentioned, and I mentioned it as well, how important it is to have a socially just transformation. So you need that part of our city, of your city administration, getting involved into all these transformation things that is organized by the climate department, for example, and that is a lesson learned, for example. And there is one thing that I like to share. Perhaps it is a bit German speciality, but it is a huge obstacle, at least to the city of Bonn, that climate change and tackling the consequences of the climate crisis is not a mandatory task for cities and for the local level at the moment. And that is a huge obstacle because, first of all, a lot of cities are front runners, yeah, but there are, to be honest, a few who don't do much, yeah, and you need all hands on deck. So that is one reason why we need to have climate and climate justice and tackling the climate crisis as a non-mandatory but an obligation for the cities. But it has also something to do with the funding. Yeah, when you run out of money, and there are a lot of constituencies and a lot of cities in Germany who have a lack of funding and a lack of money at the moment, you cannot invest in climate measures because you are just not allowed due to the regulation. And and that is a problem because it is not mandatory, and therefore we are campaigning as the Council of the Cities in Germany to make the question becoming an obligation for all the cities, and we need the federal government for that. We need legislation on the federal government for that.
Thank you very much. And well, let's give you a round of applause to this panel.
I have to apologize that I have to leave early, but there is another arrangement.
We are used to this, and that's a big commitment here at COP28 for all the mayors. As I heard, this is the first COP where at least mayors are also part of some negotiation spaces, and municipalities get more recognition in the formulation of our ambitions and goals. So let's start with the second round, and I would like to invite the second keynote. Do you want to take it here, or you prefer to speak from the desk? Okay, so Councillor Mandlala. How do you see the economic prospects, or you have already touched a little bit on that, for local governments in decentralized energy production and provision in South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa?
No, thank you very much. I think, as you are correctly saying, we've already touched a bit on some of the issues that speaks to the economic opportunities associated with sorry, I was kind of lost a bit.
We're all nervous, don't worry.
No, thank you very much. The eThekwini understands the significance of urbanization as a driving force behind global growth. We recognize the crucial role that cities play in fostering business development and creating interdependencies. To streamline the energy sector transformation agenda into various streams of low carbon opportunities, eThekwini municipality has to create an energy industry that is centric to the 4 Ds of energy reforms, that is decentralization, digitalization, deregulation, and decarbonization. This will ultimately accelerate the wheeling programs, electric vehicles, and smart measurements of the entire power grid. We also see the incredible blockchain opportunity with the capacity to facilitate trading and to verify energy origins. We have welcomed We have welcomed the strategic transformation of our energy generator, Eskom, as the mechanism to facilitate competition at generation and transmission level. Our view is that municipalities should continue to be the sole providers of distribution services while making substantial investment in building and maintenance of the infrastructure. Municipal business models, however, are outdated and need to transform in terms of determining the cost-reflective tariffs. In terms of the new generation capacity and the and the grids of the future. I think we have reflected on that in terms of the energy mix that we want to pursue, and we want to learn from the industry. What we have done in our part as eThekwini municipality, through the procurement of the new generation, has managed to successfully penetrate the market within the complications of the national legislation, as pointed out by the mayor. Also, it's not a German issue, it's an issue that exists elsewhere as well, where the issues of climate change and all of that exist at national government. So the fight that we think we have won here at COP28, where cities and subnational authorities have a seat at the table, I think it's a fight that we need to also take home when it comes to this, because as long as climate change and all the commitments made remain an unfunded mandate and a voluntary thing for cities, then we will not be able to make it. To stick to your 5 minutes as I conclude, we also happy to have submitted the Section 34 ministerial determination application to the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, in which Minister has assessed our business case and transferred the remainder to the Minister of Electricity, a South African issue of having a Minister of Energy and the Minister of Electricity as different entities. Suffice to say, our application was a bit affected by restructuring of Electricity Regulation Act, where some powers and functions were shifted to the Ministry of Electricity. We are planning to release a request for proposals for the 400 megawatts of new generation capacity, and before the end of this calendar year 2023, we are extremely happy about the turnaround at national government. This clearly means that national government has acknowledged finally that the economic failures associated with energy crisis need to be tackled and tackled fast. Thank you very much.
Excellent insights. So local solutions bring local benefits as well, right? And now I would like to move the discussion a little bit on the purpose of the connective cities, to find out how do you actually do this global exchange with other cities. So I would like to start with Barker and ask you how do you do this international exchange and cooperation with projects to help to support their work from lessons learned you did in your own city?
Thank you very much. And I think the councillor in his opening remarks or his keynote speech highlighted, very key areas that are similar to our own environment. The issue around coordination, right? And I think for us, we quickly thought about that very critically. And there was a mini grid regulation. So we have a federal system, and it's easy to be able to coordinate that, centrally. But it hasn't been completely effective. So there's been a recent tweak in the law, electricity law, where we are now giving more power for decentralized energy generation to the municipalities. And this is coming from the learnings that we have had through some of the technical assistance that I mentioned, from support from the GIZ, through the European Union and the German government. So what's important here is that the government now decided on a threshold of generation for the local communities. And the idea is, for many of these communities, there is also the challenge of, having to be able to pay for this electricity usage. Now, we have tried to use a lot of community-based models to address that gap. We have something we call the Rural Electrification Users Cooperative Society. So what we do with that is a formal platform for these communities. And I'm speaking to some of the innovative, learnings that we have had, from engagements with other climates, and just understanding what can work. So that has been tremendously effective. Very recently, we actually deployed various projects, agricultural related projects that are powered by solar energy. And because you're speaking to the income and the livelihood of the people in providing energy access, it's very easy for them to be able to respond positively. So most of these solutions are down-up as opposed to up-down kind of solutions. So I think in closing, another key highlight I would want to make is we've also actually gotten a lot of support in terms of having a central data management system, which actually plays a role in planning. Some of the data at the local level can be very difficult to access, so it's very difficult to plan projects effectively, but with the support, again, of the GIZ, we've been able to deploy the central data management system that has helped. Very recently, we got, I think, over 30 million euros to actually develop some municipality solar mini-grids, which are interconnected mini-grids with the grid. And these projects are under development at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's nice to hear how this collaboration exchange can help to support local action. Councillor Madlala, I'm turning to you next. In which projects is Durban involved internationally?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. We've had many programs and projects, some of which sponsored by the German government through the GIZ, some of whom sponsored through our agreement, our sister city agreement with the city of Bremen. Currently, we are working on a program that is a support from C40 Cities Network, which speaks to building capacity at our city to be able to respond to the demands that are there. You remember when I spoke earlier, I said some of the issues that we are dealing with are new to us because we've been reliant on that coal-fired, coal-generated electricity. And all of these are new industries that are going to be sparked through the policy that we've adopted and all of that. So we are building capacity of the city to be able to handle this whole situation of ensuring that we are able to source electricity or energy through the various energy sources, the mix, and the integration of that to the grid. Because one of the issues that we are dealing with, which I'm happy that the mayor of Bonn, it was the councillor from Cologne that said the anxieties around the integration of the renewables into the grid have been allayed in Cologne. So that's one of the issues that we were dealing with, because electricity resale was one of the sources of our own funding in terms of as we are transitioning, we also need to also take care of the other side where we are now losing revenue as a city, and therefore we need to learn how to then handle this whole thing, and therefore we are being assisted in that. There are other programs, but I've lost my notes here, so maybe after the councillor I'll get back and specify each and every program. Thank you.
Please, thank you very much. And I think there's lots of lessons learned from German cities, how to phase out coal, I guess. But Christian, how does Cologne exchange with other cities on local energy production and provision?
Before I dive into that, can I answer a couple of things?
Please.
that would be super helpful. Because I think we touched upon a couple of very interesting items. And one was about the grid and about grid stability. And thinking about Katja Dörner's keynote speech, where we realized that in our climate mitigation plans, we increase the demand of electricity tremendously. A particular challenge for local cities will be the low voltage grid to capture all that electricity and to bring it to the right people. Now again, we can help ourselves here, and I know I'm not diving into all the technical details, please forgive me, but staying on the high level, but we can help that with producing the electricity right where it's needed. So that's with the PVs. And there we have an interesting learning of business models, because it used to be very complicated to produce electricity on your rooftop in Germany from a business model perspective, because suddenly you were a businessman selling electricity to the grid, and all the regulations that come with that. Not in all instances, but those were local challenges. Now that is being renewed, and that is something that I would take away as a learning. Don't make it too complicated for people to set up solar panels. And now coming to what we do is we work with partner cities, and last year I had the chance to go to Rio de Janeiro, which we work with, and I think an angle that works well is to provide technical support for really specific projects for partner cities. And in that case, we had a collaboration for an organic waste treatment plant, which is another opportunity of renewable energy, right? And that we had realized that successfully with our local utility and supported then technically in Rio to build up a similar facility. And there I learned a new perspective also on renewable energy, which opened my eyes a little bit, is that solar panels were seen as energy efficiency often. And I was like, wait, but it's energy production. How is the energy efficiency angle? But it's about reducing your demand from the grid, right? And that angle is for me new and really exciting to see. And I try to put that lens also more into practice in Germany, because it helps us reduce our demand from the grid. It makes me a little bit more independent, and that can motivate people to actually do that, to take the investment of installing solar panels on your rooftops, and that it is already profitable right now, and you don't need the subsidy schemes that we've talked about earlier. I'll stop there. I have a couple of other things to note, but maybe to give the floor back to you.
All right. Do you want to comment on this again?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. No, I'm happy. I think it aligns with some of the issues. One of the programs that we are involved in, it's a program that is we are supported by the C40 Cities network. It's called 24/7 carbon-free energy, wherein we are being assisted as a city we have around 26,000 employees of the city, and therefore it's a huge operation. Now, before you venture out to the communities, you need to start at home. So we are being assisted to make our own operations carbon free in terms of our waste plants, our waste treatment plants, our water, our transportation, our energy, and all of that. So we are being assisted through that. And through the other interventions, that is exactly what we want to do, where we want to slowly wean ourselves off the national grid, and ensure that we are able to save on the demand nationally, to reduce demand nationally, and also ensure that we are able to locally empower local small businesses who are providing this, like that person we were talking to who's producing electricity through just a couple of solar panels on the roof, to be able to sell the access to the grid and to streamline that, because there was no regulation and for that. So it's a new territory for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on, I would like to ask the audience whether you have questions, comments. Please, we have a microphone there. Welcome.
Yeah, Daniel Chatterjee from Rolls-Royce. So we're also in the business of decentralized energy. So we make not the cars. And so I really like that discussion because we really believe very much in decentralized energy production. I think it's impressive what you're doing. I have maybe a bit more provocative question because I don't agree what you said on the stability of the grid. So we have a huge plant, 6,000 people in the south of Baden-Württemberg, which is used to be one of the prosperous German regions. And we just see that the whole grid development in Germany is not following the access to renewable energy. And what you have also not touched, you have the PV, and then there's like a middle local energy production, like what in German Stadtwerke are doing, so local organizations. And my question is really, and I don't see in the German strategy that this decentralized energy in the middle level is really promoted. So we're moving to big topics. So is there something we can learn from the African countries probably? Because last week we experienced exactly what you had in my hometown, what you have in the supermarket. 3 times, half an hour, no power.
Wow. Okay, let's hear what the partners here can share with us.
Can I go next? Can I? Okay. It's interesting to see Rolls-Royce in the room when you talk about DREs. You would expect to be on a plane and talk about the engines of the plane or something like that. But it was interesting because I think it was about 2 weeks ago, we had commissioned Nigeria's first truly interconnected mini-grid in a place north of Nigeria, in Nasarawa state called Toto. And the developer was walking us through the plant, and the inverters actually are made from Rolls-Royce. The converters there and I was surprised because and they were like, this is probably the first Rolls-Royce installation in terms of converters in Nigeria. So that's commendable. And I think for the other side of the question about stability, we have struggled as well to integrate, intermittent supply, onto the grid. But what we have decided, or what we are doing differently, is we are bringing it down to the distribution network level. And we've been doing that with a lot of success. So there's better control at the distribution level, because most times when you talk about integrating renewables, you look at it from the national grid standpoint, transmission level and all of that. So, and we do that sometimes operating in island mode. So you operate for a period of time in agreement with the utility, and in such a way it's still considered interconnected because you are leveraging on the network of the distribution company. So that has worked quite well. The second thing I wanted to touch on was on electric mobility. And in my opening remarks I had pointed that for us, we're actually solving 2 problems at the same time. There isn't access for many homes and many businesses. So in solving the access problems, we are handling the emissions problem at the same time. Unlike in the OECD countries, you already have the grid, you already have the supplies, you're changing the way you're doing things. That's different for us, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So with electric mobility, for example, and this is my last point before I allow others chime in, when e-mobility came into being, there was a question of where are you going to get the power to even charge the systems in the first place, since you don't have enough power. But we've seen mini-grid play increasingly new roles in this. And unlike the 4-wheelers, Tesla, you're using probes in Africa, the disruption is happening using swap systems. So for 2-wheelers, for 3-wheelers, people come, the design is very basic. You swap the battery, you go, you use it, you bring it back. So I think sometimes learning should not be looked at from Europe to Africa. Learning can be from Africa to Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this was a nice highlight. Do you want to add on this? Okay, do we have more comments, questions from the audience? I was actually curious because the mayor before talked about integrated solutions, and I was wondering the audience expertise. Like, are you who's from the energy sector? Maybe you raise your hands to see who has come here. And who's from the urban expert community? Water? Okay, maybe you may share where you're coming from and what's your question.
Hi, Sonia. I'm Cristiana Brito from BASF. I work for BASF at South America. And I'd like to understand from you if you measure the social impact of that and how you measure, because this is the hard part also, right? I mean, how this technology can improve people's lives, and also how these we can learn from each other, right? Because we are talking about a lot of social impact, and Brazil and South America, we have a huge social gap, and we are always looking at that also. And BASF, it's a German company, as you know, based in Germany, but all over the world, and we produce chemistry for over 150, and we create chemistry among people. So this is why. So it's a pleasure to hear you all here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question, and I'm honored because now I know who you are. We have been in touch before because I'm working in Brazil currently, but I'm happy to refer to the panelists to see what's your insight on this question.
Yeah, so creating chemistry between people, I think that is something we do not shed light enough on when it comes to the energy transition as a whole. It's not, and I tried to say something along those lines also in my first remark. We want to create opportunities for people. We want to make lives of people better. And looking at what you told us about the coal-fired power plants, I grew up in a lignite mining region with lignite power plants just a few kilometers away, and I was very used to dust everywhere, and now with those being phased out, okay, there were some technical implementations in the last 30 years making a lot of that much better as well, but with those being phased out, we create a lot of co-benefits for the regions where the energy is produced. And what we are trying to do now in Cologne is to add, next to a normal financial balance sheet, a social balance sheet. What is the impact on society of the different companies, of the local utility companies, and especially when it comes to transportation, public pools, etc. The financial balance sheet often doesn't look very, very promising because those type of companies don't have a profit, but they have a huge impact on society. And I think when it comes to energy supply, that can be very, very similar. Now, that comes, of course, with the challenge. How do we measure that? How do we account for that? But there are matrices being developed for that, and there's pilots. Yeah, happy to share further details in a bilateral talk, because that is, yeah, we can go into the nitty-gritty details there. Yeah, maybe that first from my side. I could add something, but...
You want to add something on that? Okay. Is there more questions, comments in the audience?
Hi, I am Archishman Bose. I'm a lecturer in University College Cork in Ireland. So I do work on energy systems. So in terms of decentralized energy, is there how much requirement is there for skill development? Or continuing what you have, and then maybe at the end of life, so if you will have lots of solar, they're coming, like they will start coming end of life at 10, 15 years. So how's the community being developed to ensure that they recycle, repurpose the skills that's required to have the knowledge within the community? So I just would be very curious.
Thank you very much. Who wants to shed light on this?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Look, I think we also have the social gap that exists in Brazil, as USA, and in our country, unfortunately, it's racialized and gendered because of our past. And as I said earlier, we are hoping that the introduction of the decentralized energy is then going to spark new industries wherein these people who have been marginalized, like women, people with disabilities, the youth, are then going to start participating Now, as a city, we are, as I said, we are being assisted. Part of that is that to create readiness, incubation and readiness for our own people to be able to benefit, participate in these new industries and benefit, and for them to be able to share that knowledge. I think, just as a side note, the delegation from our city that is here, there's 5 of us. I'm the only male in the delegation. The rest of them are female, and then there's youth also amongst them. I think that is born from the realization that those are the people who have been marginalized, and those are the people who must start providing solutions and coming up with, because it's we've been thinking a lot for women and the youth as adults. It's time they participate and think for themselves and provide solutions, and this is a starting point. Thank you.
Hello? Okay. Just to add, I think your questions actually are in 2 parts. The learning side. For most of our programs, there's a STEM component, which focuses on, sciences, technology, engineering, and math. And there's a bias for young female students, actually. So we in one of our programs called the Energizing Education Program, that is funded by the World Bank, for example, where we are building independent, decentralized power systems. Inherent in that program is the transfer of knowledge to some of the students that actually are within this institution. On the issue of the life cycle and end of life of most of these components, especially the batteries, I think associations play a big role here. Government cannot do everything. So I think there's an alliance for battery recycling in Nigeria, but what government can do is to support this advocacy, and I think to try to close the knowledge gap as to what to do, where to go to, who to speak to when these equipment start to reach their end of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe adding to that, because I think this touches upon something that I should have touched upon in my earlier answer as well. When we talk about the social impact of renewable energy, I was looking at the social impact of the place of production of the energy, of generation, right? But there's also the social impact of production of the solar panel itself. And if we do want an honest answer for the social impact of renewing our energy supply or installing energy supply based on renewables in the first place, then this needs to be taken into account, right? How are the materials produced that in the end make up the photovoltaic panel? And that's where your question comes into play perfectly, right? Because we need to recycle everything that is not used. And since the first solar panels in Germany are now probably some 20 years old, maybe even older, so that process is being developed, but it's not there in scale yet, as far as I know. And I'm connecting to what you just said, involving unions and associations, because it's not only about recycling, it's also about having the people power to put up the panels in the first place, or we don't have the technicians on that scale to do that fast enough, right? So it's about working with now I'm back in my role as a municipal councillor. It's working as a municipality, working with the unions and associations of the technicians, of the workers on those programs. On the one hand, teaching more how to set up solar panels. On the other hand, developing the programs to recycle batteries, to recycle solar panels, that we can at some point hopefully close the loop and do not need the mining of the metals that, especially in Latin America, is also causing severe problems, right?
Thank you for this fruitful discussion, and thank you, the audience, to participate. Unfortunately, we have to come towards an end. I would like the panelists, if they want to add some final words. Otherwise, do you want to add something which is still in your mind, which you want to share with us?
Yeah, just one comment. I think a lot of this can be summarized by collaboration. I've emphasized that a lot in earlier talks today as well. For municipalities, let's stop the silo thinking. I don't know who mentioned that, whether that was Katja Dörner or one of you. Let's stop that silo thinking, let's collaborate, let's work together, and that is within the municipality, where you cannot imagine how little some departments talk to each other on the one hand, but then on the other hand, panels just like as this one. It's about collaboration, it's about learning from each other, and that's something that I cannot stress enough how important that is, and that we're open to that.
Thank you very much. Let's give the panelists a round of applause. Before I also try to wrap up and get the, what did I take out of this panel discussions? I think that's one of the most difficult tasks now for myself. I think it was about get started. We heard this. I don't want to repeat what you were just saying. However, we heard also coming in and coordinating is a very important task than just thinking it's about finance. Even though development partners remain important to support our partners. And I think we also heard about policies and the translation of national policies towards local policies, and make it mandatory for municipalities to also adhere to these ambition goals we are setting here at these COPs. I think we heard about just and inclusive participation and the social benefits of that, and being part of formulating these policies and being part of making decisions, identifying the local solutions which bring local benefits, what you mentioned, and the part of capacity building, how much important that is. And that not only in developing countries, but also still back home, as we have heard here from one comment in the audience. And I want to share something very interesting, because you also said, let's also look at the opportunities and not only focus on this all bad sides of the climate change. And you mentioned the solar panels, and that's producing energy where the demand occurs. And yesterday I was in a very interesting masterclass of communication for climate change, and they have actually shared that through the Google Streets View, many people got encouraged to put up solar panels on their roofs, right? And I think this is something we could also use much more on municipality level, to look at the opportunities, how make people feel great what they are doing, especially our own kids, the golden generation, which follows celebrities and are mainstream. But let's acknowledge that they can be helpful as well. And I've also heard that at the moment there's an advertising of a celebrity on a climate bra, which got more hits and views than all the facts about the COP, right? And we know our kids are like, huh, what's the COP? Where are you going? But if we are operating on a local level, let's make these people the champions of the activities. And I think, therefore, let's stay ambitious. Let's just and together, and as you said, continue to collaborate, continue to exchange, and learn from these great lessons. So, last but not least, but I was asked to put up a few slides to actually introduce the connective cities and how you can get in touch to actually join these colleagues in their journey and to actually really execute these exchanges. So I have to grab this, and you can already see. So this is a 10 years partnership already, and they have 692 cities from over 104 countries benefiting from the activities of the connective cities, and 82 projects have been already developed jointly and implemented. This is again the mission of the connective cities, connecting local politicians as we do at the moment. The exchange through collective advice, collegial advice, peer-to-peer. We have heard this from Nigeria, from South Africa, and the support and the development of innovative solutions. This is that you see the network spread out around the world. It's over 1,000 members in that community. And some of the key lights, among others, long-term exchange on urban heat planning concepts, as well as flood management for risk-aware urban development. And thank you very much. And please, again, let's give a big applause to our panelists. This is how you can stay in touch with us. Take your phones, and yes, please contact us. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP28 in Dubai. Ambitious, just together.